So for this lesson, we're going to be thinking of decimals and fractions more as money than as just numbers with a decimal point or two numbers, one over the other, separated by a line. So what do I mean? Well, when you think of a dollar, there's 100 pennies in it, just like when we hold up one of those 100 squares, you can see that there's 10 by 10 by 10 by 10 and 10, 10, 10, 10, and it makes 100. So if I showed you this chart, you would be able to tell, oh, $1 is 100 pennies. 25 cents or a quarter is 25 pennies. 10 cents or a dime is 10 pennies. 5 cents or a nickel is 5 pennies. And 1 cent or a penny is just a penny. And we can write these actually as fractions. That's pretty easy to do. So if I have $1, it would be 100 pennies over 100, and that equals 1. If I have a quarter, that's 25 cents over 100, which equals 25 cents. Now, if I had a dime, that would be 10 cents over 100 because there's still 100 pennies and a dollar, and that's 10 cents. 5 cents would be the same, and 1 cent would be the same. 5 and 1 over 100. But how do we write those? How do we write those as decimals? Well, I can tell you already that $1 would be 1.0 because that's only $1. We have no fraction left after that. 100 over 100 is 1.0. 25 cents, we know. When you see that 25, you just put that decimal, 25, and you can put a 0 in front of it if you want. 0.25. 10 cents, same thing, 0.10, because there's 2 at the top. But 5 and 1 cent get a little confusing. We need to remember that there's no tens there. There's no tenths place on top. So we put a 0. And then we put a 0 again because there's no number before the 5. And we put a 5. And this only happens when you're working with hundredths. So 1 following the same pattern would be 0.01. So now that we have all those down, now we're going to take a look at a problem. We're going to think about this. If I could write, let me erase my other board real fast. If I could write $1.56 as both a fraction and a decimal, what would it look like? $1.56. So we already know that the $1 is 100 pennies, 100 over 100. So it would be 1 point. So we'll start as a decimal. And the 56 is a fraction. It's 56 over 100. So that becomes 56, 1.56. Now, how do we write that as a fraction? Well, we've been doing it this whole time. We know that we take the 1, we make it a big 1. The 56 goes on top because it's right there. And it can't go over 10, so it must go over 100. Now is where you have to know what each one of the coins' values is. So if I told you I'm giving you a quarter and 2 dimes and a penny, now I want you to write this as a decimal. I want you guys to write this as a decimal. Well, we should break it down first. A quarter is worth 25 cents. And each dime is worth 10. So 2 dimes must be worth 20 cents. And 1 penny is just worth 1. And we're adding all that up. We're adding all that up. So that would be 46 cents. Now, how would you write that as a decimal? Well, you would put 46 on top, and you would put it over 100 because there's 100 pennies in a dollar. And if you wanted to write that as a decimal, it would be 0.46. So you are going to be working with this idea of using coins and dollar bills throughout the whole lesson. And I think this is going to be a fun lesson for you guys because it is it's something that you use in everyday life. And it's also going to ask you to do it backwards. It's going to ask you to break down some of it from 46 cents into pennies, dimes, and quarters. So I think you guys are going to really enjoy this lesson. And if you have any questions, I'll be on Google Meet.